gamers! Here we have Howard Scott Warshaw, a game designer way ahead of his time. He's responsible for Atari classics such as Yar's Revenge, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and E.T.
The worst game of all time.
So for 30 years I've carried this thing of E.T. as this horror story. It's this horrible thing. It's this atrocious thing. It's the worst game of all time. And even James himself says in the movie, well, it's probably not really the worst game of all time.
I've played a lot of games that are way worse than E.T., but it was my biggest request, and in the Nerd Movie I review it, and I'm giving it comedy, but also wanted to give my sincere thoughts at the same time.
When it's thought of as the worst game of all time, I prefer that moniker because Yar's Revenge is frequently the best game of all time in a lot of lists and recognition. So I've got the greatest range of any game designer in history.
Nevertheless, worst game or not, it was the greatest game story ever told. The cartridges in the landfill and everything. So when Kevin and I were writing the script, we knew this was perfect to base a whole work of fiction around. The game leads to a lot of frustration, and it's really funny seeing other people's reactions while playing it. We had a special effects team that had to design an animatronic alien for us, which was supposed to be based on what we think the alien in the game really looked like. So we brought the game to them for inspiration, and watching them play it, their reactions were priceless.
Why did you do that?
We're getting a little inspiration here, playing some E.T.
Oh! No!
You can't avoid these pits.
I apologize. Right here it is. I'm sorry. I could have taken maybe another couple of days and really fixed some of the basic problems of the game, but honestly, by the end of that time, I was so sick of the game, I did not even want to look at it anymore. And the truth is, if I would have tweaked it and fixed a couple of the major problems in the game, we might not be here talking about it right now, so I'm kind of glad it went the way it did. You know, I'm Howard Scott Warshaw, the Silicon Valley therapist, and I am a licensed psychotherapist in California. Now, what's funny is that years ago with the E.T. game, I may have created a tremendous amount of depression and angst and trauma, and nowadays I'm qualified to treat the PTSD that I actually created long ago. So what was I really doing with E.T.? Maybe I was really just creating a client base for myself now.
When writing Howard Scott Warshaw's part, and mind you, like in the early drafts, Howard Scott Warshaw was a main character. There was no Xander. It was basically Howard Scott Warshaw, the game designer, mad scientist, sage that kind of takes the nerd and points him toward his destiny.
It was very interesting to read the script. It was a very interesting take on the whole E.T. story. It was the first, I think it was really the first original or fresh take I've heard in about 30 years.
So we were sort of writing a fictional alternate reality Howard Scott Warshaw, where in the movie he hides secrets inside the E.T. game. Now, it's actually true that Howard used to hide all kinds of Easter eggs in the game. You know, you'd unlock something and you'd find some kind of, hidden secret. And my inspirations was always the book, The Da Vinci Code, which is about Leonardo da Vinci hiding secrets inside his paintings, and the movie National Treasure, which is about, secrets hidden inside government documents. So we wanted this movie to have sort of a science fiction, government conspiracy theme.
The part that I had is now what you see as Xandor in the movie.
We just want to ask you some questions about E.T.
E.T.? Eat! Lead, you FBI scum!
It's a very eccentric character, and it was a fun character to play, but it wasn't the character I wanted to be, particularly given my new career as a therapist. I don't want my clients seeing me in a film like that way. I'd rather have them see me in a more authentic way. And fortunately, we were able to come to a rewrite where I really get to be essentially who I am, and the things that I say to the nerd in the movie are the things I would probably say to any client in the same situation. I got to feel like I was really very authentic.
In some ways, it's perfect because he becomes like the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Yoda, or the Morpheus to the Oracle, whereas then we slide in Howard as the actual Oracle, or the soothsayer, the wise old sage, which actually really helped the structure of like this Joseph Campbell plot that we've made with like the Chosen One. So like the characters all started falling in place even better.
I'm really grateful to everybody involved with the movie. They were so receptive and really worked with me, and it's certainly the guy who played Xandor. I think he got a big bump up in what he was doing too, so I think it worked out for a lot of people.
And I'm so glad that like he was like so game to do this and like such a good sport to like fly from San Francisco to the hot desert and knock that part out of the park.
Howard got to be in 2 movies this year. The other was Atari Game Over, which is where they excavated the Atari landfill in Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Now this stuff is coming around and happening. This could have happened 10 to 15 years earlier, could have happened 10 to 15 years later. It's exciting to be a part of this incredible kind of a maelstrom that's going on around the worst game of all time. On the one hand in the documentary, and on the other hand you have a fictional narrative that's telling you here's what the real truth was behind the scenes. They're similar, they mirror each other, but they couldn't be farther apart in terms of the imagination, the creativity, and what they're actually representing. Shooting my scene was about 2 years before the landfill, almost exactly 2 years before the landfill event where we were going to actually find out what happened.
Back when Kevin and I were writing the script, we researched the Atari landfill a lot, and we found all kinds of newspaper articles from the time, and there was a picture of the games being dumped, but it was this really crappy black and white photo.
You gotta be kidding me. This is the shittiest photo I've ever seen. Looks like it's been put through a copying machine 100 times. I don't see any games in there.
I can honestly say this. This was my role in the Nerd movie was the first time ever that I have said, yes, the cartridges are in the landfill. Now, I was saying that because it was written in the role. I historically have always denied that the cartridges were in the landfill.
He'll agree that there are no games under that landfill. Even better, we'll get him saying it on video.
And then bingo, the cartridges were in the landfill. So, life imitates art. So it was very interesting. It's the Nerd is not only an amazing and insightful reviewer, but he's also quite the prognosticator.
To me, it was always a fact that Atari dumped a bunch of games in the landfill in Alamogordo, but E.T. was only a small portion of all those games. There was Pac-Man, Centipede, you name it. So the amount of E.T. cartridges they found was nowhere near the unsold 2 million cartridges that are supposed to be out there. So I don't know if those will ever be found, or, that's kind of where the whole myth thing came in. So the myth is still alive, but whatever the case, the story of the landfill, it just inspired so many people. Inspired me and Kevin to write this whole movie about it, and to spend years and years of our lives to make this movie, and inspired someone to dig it up, obviously. So it really had a lot of power.
On some levels, you could look at this as like a ridiculous B-movie throwaway kind of thing. And it kind of has a lot of charm on that level, but I can also tell that there is a lot of training and education and discipline in filmmakers behind this film as well. It really struck me. I'm dealing with some people who are really filmmakers. These are people who respect film, are interested in telling a story, and so you took something that could have been a kind of silly little thing, and I think you really gave it enough character to make it stand and live. I really believe, and I'll say this for the first time, I really believe this movie has enormous potential as a cult hit to go on for a long time.